Thanks, Corey. Yeah, I wish we did have the seat of power. Uh, Buddy, Jonathan Daza can't help but notice the spring he's having. Of course, last night he almost had the very rare Cactus League cycle, but um, just your perceptions of him and how hard is he pushing for that roster spot?
Well, there's no doubt the last last couple games, he's had big days, and you said it. The rare Cactus League cycle, almost in play last night in Goodyear, would have been a rarity. But he's swinging the bat well, and he's doing everything he can to make a mark. He's touched the big leagues, so he's been in and around, a big league environment. This guy, he plays defense. He's done some things with the bat at the minor league level. When it comes down to it at the end, we're gonna have to really make some hard decisions on our roster. But he's putting his best foot forward. There's no doubt about that.
Would you say the same thing for Connor Joe? I mean, not just the 3 home runs, I believe, but what else has he shown you besides that power?
Well, I think with Connor, there's a track record in the minor leagues, especially at the upper levels, that of a good quality at bat. There's an on-base component in there. He takes his walks. The strikeout rate's pretty solid in the minor leagues. This is a guy that seems to swing at strikes and takes balls. He's got a good disciplined eye. He's got control of the strike zone. And to your point, he's got some power, shown some minor league power, but it's a good quality at bat. So, and we're trying to give him a little versatility, as you've noticed, playing him at first. We had him in left last night for 7 innings. But again, we've talked about the importance of team versatility. He's in that mix as well. And Daza, the ability to play all 3 outfield positions. And a number of other guys, right, that we've talked about who've, been able to show their defensive versatility. Owings, Hampson, Fuentes, even McMahon. I mean, and down the line of, of a lot of our players that, trying to find that, that right mix of a final roster, or even depth pieces who can come up and fill certain spots depending on our need.
I imagine from your perspective that having to face some of these, what look like can be some difficult roster decisions, you said this in the past, that's a really good thing that you have guys, playing hard and playing well to force you to make some tough decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want, right? Because the guys that do get sent down, they're probably the first guys, back up when there's a need. And we all know, over the long season, anything could happen at any time of that season, whether it's the first week into the first month, second month. We need depth, both position player-wise and on the mound. So, I'm happy that guys are showing their talent here in spring. That's a great thing. So I hope we have really, really hard decisions at the end. That means guys are playing well and showing their skill set and putting it out there for us to evaluate.
And one more for me, buddy. Daza, of course, is out of options, so that's a little bit different situation. Is that a huge factor organizationally when a guy is reached that point in his minor league career, so to speak?
Well, I think that comes into play for sure. But again, I think you have to make the right decision, for your team and the organization, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into, formulating a roster. But there's no doubt that the out of option player creates a great deal of conversation at the end, depending on which way you need to go.
Great, thanks, buddy.
You got it, Patrick.
Nick Groke, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, buddy. When you weigh the possibility of a 9-man bullpen, is there a specific role that you would want to use the extra spot on? Is it another long arm, or are you just
no? Probably just more depth. I think if you have 9, you can maybe not keep a long man because you have 9 options out there. I mean, the less guys you have in the pen, the more innings those guys need to cover. The more guys you have in the pen, each guy might not have to cover as many innings as you would if you had, a lesser number of pitchers. So, in that scenario, if you have a lesser number, you need length from a couple different guys. If you keep more guys, you have, the capability to use those guys in shorter stints because you have more of them.
So then, tell me if I'm just curious about this.
Okay, it's fine.
If my thinking is off track here, but
I'll let you know.
Yeah, the versatility of your position players, is that what might allow you more wiggle room in a shorter bench, just because you can do so many different things
Yes.
with them? Is that
Yes.
Okay.
Nick, you're getting it. I love it.
So what I mean, although just in general, I'm not talking about anybody specific, but in general, what if you did go to a 9-man pen? What are you losing bench wise?
Well, you're using maybe the opportunity to, maybe pinch hit for a pinch hitter, use a pinch runner, maybe not make a defensive switch, in a game because you might want to keep, your players on the bench. It doesn't allow you to make more moves in the course of a game. Because once you get to the fifth or sixth inning in a National League game, if you start substituting players, in specific roles, pinch run, defense, that takes, a bat off the bench or 2 bats off the bench if you do those sorts of maneuvering with a short bench.
Yeah. The reason I ask is I sort of was always under the assumption that any Rockies manager would prefer an extra bullpen guy for a long homestand and whatnot, but you piqued my interest earlier in spring when you were a little bit hesitant to go that way. I mean, what's your comfort level in a shorter bench? I mean,
well, it depends on that night. It depends on the game. Obviously, if it's a tight game, close game. I mean, you want as many good options. You want as many good options as possible. To swing the game your way. If you don't have those players on the bench, it's tough to make moves. So, that's how we look at it. The more players you have available, the more specific moves you can make. Again, whether it's a pinch run, whether it's for defensive purposes, whether it's getting the right matchup against a pitcher. You have limited options when you have limited players on the bench.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Because you hate to run out of players in the 7th or 8th inning because you're making a bunch of moves in the 5th or 6th or 7th innings.
I'm with you. Gotcha. Thank you.
Go to Anthony Castrovins, MLB.com, and we'll finish back up with Patrick. Anthony, go ahead. Anthony, there?
Sorry. Hey, bud.
Hey, Anthony. Good to hear your voice.
What's the latest with Brendan Rodgers and the hamstring?
Getting closer. I think this morning we're going to, get, more detailed reports from some imaging, but he feels good. He feels confident that this is not a long-term thing. Medically, I'll catch up with the trainers here shortly. We had a night game last night, so the players are coming in a little bit later today, as are the trainers. So I'll get a more detailed report. But, all indications are that our training staff is encouraged, and the way Brendan is feeling, he's encouraged. So, again, in a couple hours from now, we'll know a little bit more. But sorry, I can't answer a little bit more definitively. But I think things are optimistic, and I wish I could even put a timetable on it, but I can't. But like I said, it doesn't seem to be a long, drawn-out hamstring strain.
Aside from this issue, how nice has it been to see him kind of, look the part, basically?
Yeah, it's been great and good for him. He swung the bat great. That's the thing that has stood out for us is, his at-bats and, the bat's in a really good spot. I know it's March, but he's shown well in his at-bats. A couple home runs, one opposite field. He pulled a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's got his base hits. He's hit the breaking ball. He's laid off borderline chase pitches. He's done a lot of things that, he came here to, show us that he could do. And defensively, he's been fine. Maybe a couple hiccups early the first couple games, but, as the games rolled on, he felt more comfortable on defense at second base. And we've had him at third base a couple times too. But, this was a little bit of a bummer that the hamstring popped up. But hopefully he can get back on the field here relatively soon.
Then a random one for you. We've seen some teams using, increasing number of teams using virtual reality, their hitters prior to a game to prepare for, that night's starter. Is that something you guys have done much of?
We've looked at it for sure. I think all that technology has been, brought to each and every organization. I think, Anthony, that's an individual thing. How I've heard both. I've heard players, like it. They think it helps them. It gives them, some sense of, what to look for. And other players don't like it. They don't think it's real. They don't think it's indicative of what a pitcher really looks like and his stuff. So I think it's all individual based, and I think we're probably like a lot of clubs and probably split in that regard, where some guys like it, some guys don't. And from what I've heard from other managers and coaches, that they feel the same way. That what I'm talking about what their players are reporting back to them.
All right, bud. Thank you.
Okay, Anthony.
Back to Patrick Saunders. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Patrick.
Thank you, Corey. Real quickly, buddy, Chichi, we talked to him last night. For the most part, I think he was pleased. Things got a little lot of traffic in that fourth inning, I believe. Two questions for you. What were your impressions of his outing last night? And could you see him projected as perhaps a long reliever in the bullpen?
Yeah, I thought he threw the ball fine last night. You're right. I thought he was pretty crisp. The first two innings, the fastball was spotted well. The slider cutter had good action. He hit his spots and, had some easy outs. The first inning had some bad swings. He choked off some swings with some pitches on the inside part of the plate. He threw the ball well. Then second time through, wasn't quite as sharp. They laid off some pitches. They stressed him a little bit, but he hung in there and continued to make quality pitches along the way. There's a walk in there, a couple ground ball hits, but overall I thought he threw the ball fine. Got to his pitch count, held his stuff, so that was good to see. And on the second part of that question, yes, I can see him, part of our pitching staff, whether it's in the rotation or in the bullpen, giving us some length. That's always a nice thing to have as a pitcher who could do what Chichi did last night and throw 60 pitches in a role that might be needed on any given night.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, guys.